Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Haulin Assets podcast, episode number 106, where we're going to get a couple of listener stories. Now, I am Craig, your host. Chris is actually not with me right now. I'm just introing this episode. We're going to bring him in just a moment with our guests. Just wanted to let you know this episode is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to talk with Stefan and Chris. Now, these are two listeners of the show who sent in their stories. We wanted to chat with them a little bit. As we talked to both of them, we asked them the same kind of set of questions, and so you'll notice some common themes in their answers. You'll also notice some differences. One of the common themes that you'll hear is, hey, if these Haulin Assets guys can do it, I can do it, right? Well, there's kind of a similar vibe that I want you to get from this episode. Listen to Stefan and Chris and their stories, and yeah, hey, if these guys can do it, so can you. So listen in, get inspired, learn something, and hopefully you'll want to go make it happen for yourself. I hope you do. So don't forget to check out HaulinAssetsLLC.com and also check out MotorCarrierHQ.com, where you can get a lot of the resources that you would need to help yourself get started. We do have another episode like this coming up with a couple of listener stories that are much less traditional than what we're going to hear today. So stick around for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the show, and thanks so much for listening. This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. All right, so Stefan, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you. Chris and I are going to fire off a few questions at you, but I want to start with kind of your story, how you got to where you are. Obviously the elevator pitch version, but you were telling me before we started that you got your CDL because you were working on a dairy farm. Is that right?
Yes, I'd worked on a dairy farm growing up. I'd say roughly about 15 years old. I started going around the farming operation of things and kind of settled into operating, bigger pieces of equipment, and got to the point where I'd operated the water truck for a whole summer. So it kind of got me into the thing of learning how to float gears and stuff like that, and pretty much learning how to make tight turns because the dairy can get pretty tight at times. So kind of helped me out with the confidence building in that aspect. And also, pretty much, confidence in this industry it will take you a long way. You'll be able to, do a lot of different things like equipment hauling, and, flatbed takes a lot of, confidence in tying down and making sure your load's secured. That's kind of where the dairy helped me out with that. So, it all.
Yeah, like you said, confidence will take you a long way, but you better earn it, right? Yeah. If you're going to tie something down on a flatbed, right, Chris? You better earn that confidence.
Absolutely. I like you already. Dairy farming roots, man. We're
there you go.
Similar.
So
That's
okay,
awesome.
So you've been driving for a while then. This sounds like most of your life you've been at least behind a wheel of some kind.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point for you? What got you to say, all right, here we go. I'm going to strike out on my own, get my own authority, and go for it? What made you make that decision?
I took in a contractor position with the Department of Defense, and I was pretty much placed back into the trucking industry because I had stepped out for about a year. It got pretty hectic with wages and stuff like that. So I needed a confidence builder, and that pretty much helped me with pushing me back into the trucking industry. And I listened to your guys' podcast. I first heard the introduction to the podcast, and I was like, this is, perfect timing. So I, started to follow you guys more, listen more, and then around, I think it was episode 10, I was like, you know what? I think I should take the jump. It's what I got to lose. It's a great time, it seems like, and I'm not going to get any younger. So
hear that, Chris? It only took you 10 episodes to convince him. That's it. It's impressive.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's
That's
effective
cool.
right there.
So, as you were listening to the show, I'm curious what was the biggest impact that had? Was there something in those first 10 episodes that made you say, "Yeah, let's go for it"? What was that impact point?
Well, Chris, being that he never been in the truck, I had the one up on that pretty much. I was like, man, he pretty much went out and did it himself, and if anybody could go do it, why a man that doesn't, that has the experience. I pretty much was envisioning this since I got my CDL. I wanted to be my own boss and, have my own free time when I want and be able to hang out with my family. And, this has made me, have more free time. So.
You hear that, Chris? So I keep coming back to you after these because this one's just too hilarious. You usually have to make the joke, Chris, but in this case, it really is, hey, if that guy can do it.
Yeah, I can understand. I'm surprised it took 10 episodes to be like, oh, if this idiot can do it, I can do it.
Not so much.
All right, so
I would have thought you would have got that after like one or two.
I mean, it took me a while. I was like, I didn't see too many trucking podcasts at the moment. There was a Trucking for Millennials podcast. They didn't have too many episodes. I mean, you guys were brand new. I was like, I don't know how much I can, wing this out. It was my life savings I was putting on the line, at the moment. Everything I had saved for the past 7 years. And I was like, oh, it's going to take a lot to, make me want to do this. And I mean, you helped me push it forward. So.
There you go. Well, based on how much you're smiling and laughing right now, I'm guessing it went okay so far in the last year and a half. But before we get to that stuff, I do want to ask you, what has been, in your experience, in your opinion, the biggest challenge for you? What's the roughest part?
Well, at this moment, it's fuel. The rapid increase in fuel, it's been hard to, be able to keep a steady amount of cash flow. I have a truck it's a newer truck, but it still has some miles on it. It needs maintenance done every once in a while. So, once one of those maintenance bills hits you, and then you have your $3,000 a week fuel bill, it's kind of tough. It's a slap in the face at this moment, but. We're seeing, we'll get through it, and
for sure.
Yeah, so
what has been the most rewarding part? Aside from the piles of cash that I'm sure you sleep in now as an owner operator, what's the most rewarding thing?
It's time with the family. My son enjoys, going on the truck with me. I take him as often as I can. He's gone on a couple of long haul trips with me. He went with me to Texas on I think it was my 4th trip out in the truck, and he was just turned 3 years old, and he took it like a champ. I was very pleased in his demeanor and just how he soaked in everything. It's just having that childlike faith and just believing that everything's gonna be okay, and it just made me see it in a different eye. So.
That's really cool. Oh, man, that's a great story. Chris, did you ever take any of your kids out? And go ahead and get close to that mic when you're telling us.
I did. I took a few of them out on a couple trips, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, that's really, family is why we do all this. It's why we make the sacrifices. It's why we do. So it's kind of cool, Stefan, to hear you bring that aspect into it. That's been one of your big benefits, is being able to, provide a better life for your family and provide better time with your family. That's
Exactly.
Honestly, that's why we do all this.
All right, Stefan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've been listening to the show now for a while, it sounds like. Do you have a favorite episode off the top of your head?
I really focus in on the financials because I like this. I don't have as many trucks, but when the truck count was down, I'd be able to have more of I must be doing things the right way. I'm asking for the right amount in rates because I dispatch myself. So I just want to make sure that I'm making money, and also I just like try to take in, a lot of the financial episodes. Not the financial, like financing and making sure, because at one point I had a team driver, having the right driver. I took in that episode because you want to make sure you hire the right person and make sure everybody's on the same page. And it's just kind of, there was a lot of episodes that I took in, but I try to focus in more on the financials.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. All right, last question for me, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chris and see if he's got anything for you. What, if there's anything you'd like us to cover, do you think that would be? Any topics that you wish we'd talk more about from your perspective?
I believe, reaching out to more people, listeners of the podcast. I believe we probably get better insight into what really goes on the boot. People that have their boots on the ground pretty much, and they're able to tell those day-to-day stories. Because I watch a YouTube of a guy that started his own authority here in California. He pretty much bought a brand new Peterbilt 389 and a reefer trailer also. Did the same thing that I kind of did, but he, went out and bought a brand new truck. So I kind of been watching on, what his progress has been in the market and stuff like that, and how he goes about things, different problems that he has, So I just believe that, having, more of a, what do you say?
Like that personal touch?
Yeah, more of the personal, more of the stories, I enjoy those a lot, like the Bubba Watson, he really got to me, him going out buying his own truck cash, not having all that overhead, like, that would have been a great idea if I would have had that amount of, capital at the time, but not everybody's fortunate to go out and do that, but I really took to his story because I like to operate on the Dave Ramsey values of operating debt-free. But, it's not, this industry is kind of hard to do that in some aspects because, the equipment prices are through the roof, so.
Yeah. All right, Chris, do you have anything you want to fire away at? Anything you want to dig into from what Stefan said?
My last question would just be, would you do it all over again? If you step back, 2 or 3 years ago and we're kind of going down the same path,
I would.
you do it again?
It's been rewarding. I've lived out a dream, and something knocked off my bucket list is, being a boss, owner operator, having more time with my family. You can't. There's just some things money can't buy, and that's what on the brighter side of all these nights that I work hard and odd ends of the night having to deliver like 3 a.m. in the morning. It just gets to you. So, but you just got to keep pushing forward, and that you'll get the reward at the end.
There you go. Well, yeah, I was going to ask you if you had anything to say to anybody thinking about starting their own, company, but that sounds like a pretty good note to leave it on.
Yeah.
Stefan, any parting words? Besides that,
if you have all your ducks in a row and you set yourself up for success, there should be no reason that you don't succeed. So just, I firmly believe in Motor Carrier HQ and Haulin Assets and everything that, that these services provide. And it's just, everybody, that's there has helped me with getting off the ground and stuff like that. And it's been very, very encouraging. And, just having the right people in your corner, it all matters. So.
Yeah, I think that's huge. All right. Well, Stefan, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you out on the road.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. And cool to listen to your story, and glad we were able to be a little tiny part of it. But ultimately the
Definitely.
success is yours, and you made the choice to take that big leap, and it's never easy. I mean, I've done it a bunch of times, and it's always a little scary, and it's never easy. And good on you for doing it, and thanks
Thank
for
you,
sharing your
gentlemen.
story.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it,
having
Stefan.
me, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, so welcome to Chris. Now, when I say Chris, I don't mean Chris. What I mean is Chris, not that Chris, but the other Chris. Chris, welcome. Meet Chris.
Hey, Chris, Craig, how you guys doing?
Good,
Good.
good. Chris
Good to have you
Wesley.
on.
Good to be
Yeah.
here. Thank you.
So, Chris, tell us real quick, where are you calling in from?
So I'm currently calling in from Converse, Texas.
All right, Texas. We just had a California. Now we've got a Texas. And yeah, we're really pleased to be chatting with you. I want you to just, if you would, give us the elevator version of your story, how you got into trucking and how long you've been doing it, since you got your CDL.
So I'll say I've been trucking for about 2.5, almost 3 years now. I did 22 years in the Army. I wasn't able to continue service due to an injury. So the Army allowed me to go to CDL school. So they sent me to
Oh,
CDL
cool.
school. And while I was in CDL school, I listened to your podcast. And so that kind of helped me along the way, kind of gave me a path to kind of look forward to. I've been looking for some mentors at that time. And honestly, you guys were kind of it. Chris, you being a military member, it kind of allowed me to find a path and be able to listen to something to go on to. But I would say that it's been a fast-paced tenure in trucking, and it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the tipping point for you that pushed you from, okay, I've got my CDL, I've been driving, to now it's time, I'm going to get my own authority and drive on my own. What was that point for you?
Time with family. My time with family is probably what I would say I cherish the most now that I've been away so much as a veteran. Being in the Army, you're constantly away from your family, and I said that, hey, when I get out, I want to be able to be with my family as much as I can. And I would say the time that I have with my family now as an owner operator is exponentially the most I've ever had in my life.
So interesting. Yeah, you feel like you've had more time as an owner operator with your family than you did as an employee driver somewhere?
100%. I get to pick when I'm going to be off. I get to pick when I'm going to work. I work for what I need to work for. So I would definitely say that, time management, I guess, maybe, and the ability to pick when I want to be doing things and not have to work for somebody else is always fun.
How long have you been running on your own authority now, Chris?
Almost September or October 1st will be a year.
Okay. All right. So yeah, coming up pretty close. What are we at? 8 or 9 months, 9 or 10 months now, I guess.
About 9.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you said you've been listening to the show since CDL school, which is I don't know, it's a horrifying thought to me, thinking of Chris as somebody's mentor. I don't know. It freaks me out a little bit. But what's been an impactful thing about the podcast for you? What has had the biggest impact in listening to the show, in either helping you make that decision or make the transition to ownership?
Well, Chris always talks about the process and how the process matters, right? So when you dive down into each and every step of this process and you're able to go back and really listen to somebody who's going through it at the time, and honestly, it just gives you a little bit more confidence that, hey, if he can do it, then why can't I do it? And then it's like, all right, what did he do that I'm doing? Or what did he do that, what did Chris do that I'm not doing? Right. And it just kind of gives you a path to walk. And it's a lot nicer.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it makes
cool.
a lot of sense.
A couple things I think are really cool here. So, Chris, First off, what did you do in the military or in the Army?
So I was an infantryman.
Infantryman, yeah, cool. I was my first 9 years enlisted. I was a 12 Bravo, a combat engineer, which is basically a wannabe infantryman that carries explosive around in their backpack. So,
Right.
I get that a little bit. One thing I've noticed with guys with military background, obviously as an infantryman, you didn't have any trucking experience, but it's an ability to follow a system. That's one thing you learn and get ingrained into you in the military is you learn how to follow a system. And so it's cool to hear you say that, you can see the system that we talk about in the podcast and essentially follow it. And like another common theme that we're hearing here, Craig, is like, if this idiot can do it, I can do it, which I think is freaking awesome. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we want here. Like it's not rocket science. It's hard work. It's, dedication, and being smart. You don't have to be a genius. It's just being smart about what you're doing. And so that's cool to hear you say that. I love it.
Yeah, it's a bit like you're saying with military service. There's a system, you follow it, and you get that ingrained. I feel like the running a trucking company and many other companies, but especially this one, you're not the first person to do it. There are millions who have done it before you. There are millions who will do it after you. There is a system. Now, that's not to say that you can't make tweaks around the edges and make your company your own and make your schedule your own and that sort of thing. But yeah, there is that system to follow. I think that's really valuable. You don't have to try to reinvent the wheel, all 18 of them. So yeah, it's nice that way. All right. So
Right.
come on. That was good. That was gold right there. All right.
That was pretty good. You just off the cuff. Look at you go.
Look, this is a pro. This is why you pay me the bucks, Chris. All right. So I want to ask you about your experience as a business owner. I hope things are going really well, and we're going to get to that stuff in just a moment. But I want to start with what has been difficult for you. What have been the biggest struggles, the biggest roadblocks for you in the first 10 months or so of running on your own?
I would say probably the first 90 days to 6 months. That area was really hard. When it came to booking loads, right? Who wants to work with you? Because your authority is so new, they're like, hey, you don't have enough time under your authority, so we can't book this load, right? Although it's a great paying load and $6-7 a mile, and you're like, hey, why can somebody else do it that I can't? Even if the booker's MC number is even younger than yours. So I ran into that probably last week. It was a really good load. The MC came, I set my MC number in, and they're like, oh, you haven't been running for a year yet. And when I pulled up their MC number, they haven't had their MC number for a year yet. And I'm like, what's going on here?
You're like, help me out, man. Give me a shot.
Right. Yes.
I'm curious, what are you running?
So mainly
yeah,
right
go
now
ahead.
I'm running steel. I run a lot of steel for a manufacturing company that's just right here in San Antonio. I'm right out San Antonio, and I'm able to run for them quite a bit. But
Is that doing flatbed then?
It is. I am a flatbed driver. Flatbed all day, skateboarders. Got them. Hardest workers out there, right?
Maybe. I mean, you work harder than me. I will give you that for sure. Okay, cool. So what has been the most rewarding thing? And now you've already mentioned family time, so I'm not going to let you cheat and say that. Has there been anything else that you want to point out about that leap into being a business owner? What's been awesome about it?
Learning. Every day I'm learning. And I said in the military, that was one of the things that, that I love to do is learn every day. And as a business owner, you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of times you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't know what you don't know. So it's nice when you have guys like yourselves that are putting it out there like, hey, these are our, this is how we're making money. This is how we're doing it. And this is what we've come across that has hurt us, and just learning every day, I would say, is the best thing about being a business owner.
I love it. Okay, so a couple of questions for you about the podcast and your experience with the podcast. Okay. And then, we'll get there in a moment. So this is putting you on the spot here. And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But do you have a favorite episode? Do you have a favorite moment in listening to this show that you think back on fondly?
I would say it's episode 4 or 5. When you guys were talking about, just the process, and you mentioned that there's one guy who is on Stitcher, and there's like, who would ever use that? Well, I'm that one guy.
And that was you.
That was me, the lone infantryman. And it happened to be, I want to say it was a podcast about finance, and getting all your finances together and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I guess I really got to start getting my finances together.
There you go. Everybody loves a shout out, right? And we didn't know you by name, but you were our Stitcher guy.
That's right.
I'm curious. If anybody listening is still using Stitcher, I'm genuinely curious because it seems like between Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and there's a few other small ones out there, but I never hear about Stitcher anymore. So if anybody out there does use Stitcher, please let me know. I'd be very curious to hear about it.
I now use I use other platforms now. So
yeah, you came over to the dark side. I love it.
Oh, shame.
Okay, so is there anything you'd like us to cover, either specifically or broadly? Anything you'd like to hear more of on the show?
I think like one of the things that I really liked was now is how you're transitioning right into a bigger corporation, a bigger company, bringing on more drivers. As I'm hopefully getting into that aspect here in a minute. But it's relationships. How did you build your relationships with your carriers? How did you build with your shippers and stuff like that? And your consistent freight, right? For me, that's hard, is finding. I have a couple people that I work for, but it's starting to kind of slow down. And then who do you transition to, and how is that fine process, done? Because you don't want to lose one, but you definitely want to pick up another.
Yeah, a vital part of any industry, really, but especially here. All right, Chris, Chris Vernon. Do you have any questions? Anything you want to dig into here with Chris?
Just
as we
the last question that I've got is, thinking back a year or so, when you're just starting to probably make the decision, hey, do I really want to do this? Put yourself back in those shoes again. Would you do it all over again?
Oh, 100%. I literally sold my house, moved from Dallas to San Antonio just to start a trucking business.
Wow, that's cool. That's putting in a lot of risk, making that kind of a big change in life, and that's cool that you had the guts to do that, and that's awesome. Thanks for letting us be a little part of it.
Oh, I appreciate you guys more than you know.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, and thank you for coming on and taking a few minutes with us. I'm hoping that sharing stories like yours will help other people. Hear you say 100%. I would definitely do it, and I hope it pushes a few other people over the edge into ownership and giving that a shot. As long as you're prepared, you can mitigate that risk and have a good time with it. So, all right. Chris, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we'll see you out on the road.
Yes, sir.